Go live. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2 3. I'm going to make sure my desktop audio is completely off. It seems that I'm live. And I didn't expect it to just actually be live. That's why I was like testing. I was testing my audio settings right now as I'm broadcasting to you guys, and it says that the stream is live and we're good to go. Welcome to this like little surprise stream. I don't know how many people I'm going to get in here. Let me get my interface to actually work with the right monitor so that I can make sure that if I get comments from you guys, it's still being picked up. And I've got one camera angle here, another camera angle here, so that, you know, I can actually use two DSLRs, or actually none are DSLRs. They're both mirrorless. And that's, I'm fully invested in the mirrorless game, but I'm also happily invested in the DSLR game too, which is awesome. But if you're new to my channel, definitely consider subscribing. I talk about cameras specifically for video purposes and talk about tricks, tips, and everything that you can do with them, my experiences with them, and especially versus and comparing them. And I'm still working on editing a lot of videos, but believe it or not, I'm working late tonight. And it's just like, I want to put out another video just to kind of keep you guys updated over what's in mind. What's up, Smart Shot? Nice to see you on the live stream. And let's get started. All right, so the first thing on my title above me is new RF lenses. Now, there were new RF lenses announced by Canon, which is pretty cool. I'm going to actually pull it up in this screen next to me so you guys can see it. And it's this 50 millimeter f1.8 STM, which is the Nifty 50, and the RF 70 to 200 f4. So there's already an RF 70 to 200 f2.8, but now there's going to be an f4. Now the prices, let me see if it has it here. So you can pre-order. Okay, yeah. So the prices for the 70 to 200 is just under $1,600, and the Nifty 50 for the RF is $200. Now, is one question that I had, especially when finding out this information, was, is there any difference between, for example, the EF Nifty 50 and the RF Nifty 50? And from what I understand, is that, first of all, this is not the Nifty 50 or the traditional f1.8. This is actually 50 millimeter f1.4 lens, EF lens, that I'm now using on my, of course, EOS R5. I don't have the EOS R, and that's actually the camera that's next to me here. So this camera right here, I'm live with the R5 on my side while I've got the Samsung NX1 in front of me. And this is the best because it also gives me an ability to have multiple camera angles, because I've got the cam link for the Samsung NX1, and then I've got, of course, the ability to use the USB to use the Canon and actually get that second angle, which is super awesome. All right, so what is the difference, right? That's my original question. What's the difference between Nifty 50 and the EF and RF besides, okay, mounting difference? I believe it's more modern. It's going to be quicker, like technical specs. I'm sure that they made the glass a little bit comparable or maybe a little bit better since it's more modern. But other than that, you're not going to see much of a difference in picture quality. It's a standard f1.8, but it's been so reliable to have, and it's really small, and to have a small camera body, mirrorless camera body, and have that small lens and get great bokeh off of that lens and really sharp pictures, it's what's desired. But the added feature that is not on the EF glasses is that you have the control ring. Now the control ring on this new Nifty 50 f1.8 will be actually right in front. So this is a focus ring, right? So this focus ring will also duplicate as a control ring on the new Nifty 50. And there will be a switch on the side that you can just switch to control ring or switch to focus. And that is their new feature on the Nifty 50, which is pretty cool. But when it comes to control ring, if you wanted to use a control ring, if you have an adapter on the RF mount, you could actually use that adapter to actually, and you'd have to pay more, but you can use an adapter that basically makes all of your EF glass just have a control ring in the adapter. I didn't pay for that. I paid just for the standard adapter, which was about $100, because that's all I wanted. That's all that was needed, and that actually works perfectly well. But other than that, that's the only feature that is added to this Nifty 50 at $200 US. So if you already have one, if you already have an EF Nifty 50 and you've got the adapter for the R5 or the R or RP or R6, should you get it? I'd say no. My personal opinion is you're already getting that. Unless you want to be able to have an additional Nifty 50 or a smaller footprint, then no, there's really no reason. But if you've got EF camera and an RF camera and you want a 50mm for both for whatever reason, then yeah, why not? Definitely get it. But I consider the EF version a little bit more versatile because, for example, in my case, I can stick it onto the R5. I can put it on my Canon 5D Mark IV, and it can go back and forth between the two. So I think that that's probably the best situation to be in. So I personally would not upgrade, but for those who have it, you definitely have an opportunity with that new 50mm f1.8. And talking about the 70-200 f4, it's a good zoom. I think the fact that it keeps f4 throughout the entire focal distance between 70-200 millimeters is great to have, and it seems to be a pretty good camera. I'm a pretty good lens, but I'm not a fan of just f4 constant. Like, I'd like at least f2.8. However, for the price tag, it's a lot cheaper than the f2.8. So maybe that's something that's more your ballpark, and you can still get, I'm sure you'll be able to still get great photos with that. And the footprint on it is still small. So what they did with the 70-200 millimeter f2.8 and they did with this one is that when you zoom, it actually pops up so that when it contracts, you can actually fit it into a bag a lot more easily. So that's a plus, but definitely worth a pickup. Not much news on the Canon front besides that. But there is something else that I'm looking forward to and that I also wanted to talk about tonight. And it was the topic of one of my future videos that I was going to produce, but then I realized, why wait to edit it when I could just get it out to you guys? And that's a lot better. And then I can worry about editing future videos and doing future tests. And that's basically the R5 is still on schedule for a firmware release this month, an updated firmware release. And in that, you're going to get additional features such as Canon Cinema Raw Lite Edition, C-Log 3. There's no C-Log 2, and if you see here, it was updated that C-Log 2 would, possibly be there, but it's not confirmed. But they did confirm C-Log 3, which from what I hear is slightly less dynamic range capability than C-Log 2, but it's still better than the regular C-Log that we have. 1080 120 frames per second, which is a weird omission that happened when the R5 was released, that it didn't have 1080 at 120 frames per second, yet the R6 had 1080 at 120 frames per second. Now this is what I'm excited about. Further tweaking of temperature control. Does that mean that we'll have a lot more control when it comes to any overheating issues? That sounds exciting, right? And then other codecs are being worked on, but may not arrive by November's release. So what does that mean? Other codecs. Does that mean that we'll potentially and possibly pick up more features and when it comes to the usability of these codecs? Now, a lot of complaints that have happened that we've known about is that the R5 video files are difficult to work with, like absolutely difficult to work with. They just are slow and very processor heavy, and even the latest like MacBook Pros have had trouble when it comes to editing that footage. And I can tell you that out of my own experience, it hasn't been that too bad when it comes to editing. I haven't had similar experiences than others when it comes to editing 4K. I could edit 4K natively on the computer and not have an issue with editing for the most part, unless I'm doing a lot of different cuts, a lot of different shots. Then it starts to slow down a bit. But 8K has given me issues, and actually I won't even say that what you call it, C-Log has not given me issues at all either. I've actually been pretty good when it comes to that, but no problems right all. I just want to make sure that you guys can see me. I actually got some notification right here that I had some glitches on the stream, so definitely at least say hi if you definitely see me. So Quippy's channel left a comment, would love it to have if the same codec 420 in the R5 for C-Log. Yeah, I mean, that I believe that wasn't even an option to begin with, because to take advantage or full advantage of C-Log, and C-Log, for those who don't know, is kind of a color profile that allows the maximum usage of dynamic range, and it's actually found separately from all other color profiles in the camera to allow you to, of course, in post, get the maximum amount of dynamic range from your sensor. Now, C-Log in itself is a great feature to have, and a lot of cameras have their own log format, but because it flattens the picture, it makes it look desaturated, decontrasted, and then you need that color information in post. Now, Kupi's channel asked, okay, if we had 420 color, rather than what exists on the Canon R5, which is 10-bit 422, it would make it a lot easier to edit. The problem with that is that if you have less color information, your footage can break easily or break easier. So when you start maybe shifting the white balance a little bit, or start to really add in the saturation and pull colors apart before you do any color grading after color correction, you'd probably have issues with skin tones looking unnatural, and that's difficult to work with. Now, the Sonys themselves, like previous Sonys that had 100 megabit files, and they gave you S-Log to work with, but the files were 8-bit 420. Problem with that was that's a lot. There's not much breathing room. Now, the 5D Mark IV was actually the first DSLR that Canon had that allowed for C-Log, and this is not counting the 1DC, which came out, I believe, in 2012. And C-Log was able to use the 8-bit 422 color, which is a little bit more color information than 420, but it still was not perfect. So the fact that we got 10-bit 422 to work with was Canon's way of saying, if you're going to use this, we want to make sure that you can use it to the fullest extent that you can possibly use it for. And granted, you can have other systems that can give you 420, and depending on the bit rate, because bit rate matters a lot too, especially higher bit rates, or using H.265, because H.265 is better compression, you can be kind of flexible, but there's still a difference between 420, 8-bit 422, and 10-bit 422. So again, I just think that it permits a little bit more flexibility. I will honestly say I don't see it too much, but it's still there, and it still plays a role. And I think that's the way that Canon sees it. But if they give you, knocked my microphone, if they do give you H.264 420, it at least would make it a little bit easier to work with. But we'll see from going on from there. So I'm excited about that firmware update, and the fact if they do give us additional codecs, I think that would be interesting to see what else that they can offer with these codecs. Now, Sony did a pretty damn good job in their A7S III when it comes to being able to select very particular codecs and frame rates and file types in their menus so that you can record exactly the way you want it. And you could basically record almost all file types, or not almost all file types, but all frame rates in all resolutions to SD cards. And right now you can record most to the R5, but you can't record 8K all-I, 8K RAW, or 4K 120 to the SD cards, which is a darn shame, but it's still not bad that you can get 8K in IPB mode on the R5 and be pretty good, at least for the most part, which I personally enjoy. But that's it for today's update. I've actually got to get back to work. I was waiting for the system to be actually activated and logged on so that I can do what I got to do. But it's definitely, I'm definitely glad that you guys can join me, at least for this little late night catch up. Say goodnight to all of you guys while I'm working over here, and I've got more videos coming up soon, so definitely subscribe and take care, and see you later. I guess I should have rehearsed more of this. I didn't know what to say. Bye-bye.